All right. Uh, you all can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Good. Hey, in last lesson or lesson 7, uh, we look at the Python functions. The benefit of using function is that if you have some task to do using Python repeatedly, then you want to put that task into a function. So that you can just call that function instead of repeat those the code or lines in the function. Um, and then we did a project. Yeah, put the column, calculating monthly payment into a function. Okay. And then when we look at the math, I think we ran into some issue with the math. We try to use the math module. It didn't work on my screen. I think I figured out why, and probably I should demo that today. See, I need a tool. Let me just turn off my video. I guess my face is facing the ceiling because my laptop is below me underneath my cheek. So I'm going to just turn it off. So you're not annoyed by looking up face. Just turn off my video and we open a comment session. I need another one actually. I need another one. Put aside. We're up here. Good. My screen. Do I still have that messing? Oh yeah. I think what happened is that um, in the Python math section, we did something like put this example into a math file, right? And so after we run the math file, Python, yeah, let's demonstrate the you call it the built-in math function from the 3 numbers. We try to determine the minimum. So the first one determine the minimum, that should be 5. And the second one determine the maximum of the 3 numbers, 5, 10, 25. And we print out the max, that should be 25. And yes, that's what we got. So now we have this math file here, okay? That's fine. And then we start to look at this module, math module, because math module has more methods or functions. The built-ins, the number of functions in the math built-in are limited. Then if we need more math functions, we can load the math module into the program, and then so we can access other functions or methods that's only available under the math module. So then we got this example there. So we create, let's see, math module, let's see, 1, example 1, let's call it example 1, py. So we paste in the code. So what the code does is to load the math module, the Python math module, and make the math module available to this program. So we can access this or call this square root method of function to get the square root of 81. That should be 9. So we print x, we should get a 9. So let's see if we get a 9. Like so. Instead, we get errors. It first said module mass has no attribute square root. So that means, yeah, you got a mass module, but your mass module doesn't have a method called a square root. And also, before that, we got a 525. So that means the module, the mass module we try to import is from actually this file. This is just our example small math program. It's not the module. So that means when you create a Python program, make sure you take a name that not in conflict with Python built-in names, functions, modules, whatever keywords. So math is obviously has been used by the Python. But of course you can override it. Yeah, you can override. This way you can use it, but that means if you do an import, then it will import the local math file. It treat our little program here as the math module. That's why. And in our math program, we only have, 2 lines. One, the min max. It doesn't have any like other functions or method called square root. So the fix is, instead of calling it a math, we should rename it. So I'm going to just move math function to my math. Yeah, or any name. As long as it's not a math, then that's not in conflict with the math that Python uses. So we can load the built-in module, not our local module. Okay. So now I move the math.py away, then we can run this program. Now it works. That means now it can import the built-in math module. Okay, that's a fix because at the end of the last class, we ran into this problem. So why? Okay, that's the answer. I think I hear someone just show up. Okay. Nora, okay, good. Okay. Let me copy that that link again, just in case you don't have it. The chat window. Oh, yeah, it's I don't just copy that from here. It's in. Go. So you should have that link now. Okay, homework. I said use the food function to print out a pizza noodle dumpling, and also use the math function to calculate the value of 4 to the power of 3. So the food function actually is this function. And in the class, we print out some fruits. So the homework basically asks to print out some food. So what you need to do is just like call it put some food here, food names here, and then call the function. So that's how you do that. The second one, power of, I think I didn't change the numbers actually, so that's actually already here. Where's that? The power of the math. Yeah, it's the answer is that. So the answer is that. Oh, I got that froze. I was lazy. I should call that a fools. Oh, yeah, not a fools, like issues. But it's okay. So it's just a name. The answer. And I hope you all have tried the homeworks. Should be easy. And let's move on to lesson 8. That's the third lesson of the session 2 of this class. Modules, yeah. We just look at the math module, and that actually remind us the math module. Can we create our own module? We also say yes, and that's actually very common. Again, just like the methods of functions, uh, if you write some code that is common and general, can be used by other applications, not just for one application, then you should put those code into a module so that code can be shared among different applications. So in Python is called module. In other programming languages like a C or Java, instead of calling modules, they call them library. That's the same thing. So if you hear something like a library or code library or module, then that's probably mean the same thing. It's just different languages. They call them a little bit differently. So the definition of module in Python is that it's a piece of code, a library, or a file containing a set of functions. One function is mostly, very likely, multiple functions. And then you can use that import this module and from many applications. Yeah, for example, the math module, that's a built-in module, and but we can also write our own module. Let's see, we have that food function. We create that a food function in lesson 7. This is our food function. We can just save that file into save that function into a file that's called a food module. We call it a food.py. Let's just do that together. So what we are going to do is, let me move this way a little bit. And a little bit there. Probably already have that food module, but I'm going to make sure. Yeah, let me go up a little bit. Let me make a different trace. Exercises. No, I don't think I spelled that right. Anyway, it's okay. Did I spell that correct? No. What's that? Let me go back. Exercises should be called exercises. That looks better. Hope that's correct. It's here. As we create a UI module. So what we need to do is put our food function into this file, right? But since this is the module, if you run this code, you probably get nothing because, yeah, as a definition function is not being called. Then that's how you create the module. So easy. Just put your function into a file that's called a module. And then the module name is actually the file name, food. The next thing is how to use it. Yeah, we create how to use it. Then to use it, just use the import statement. Just when we imported the math module, right? So to use the food module, just import the module, name the food, and call the functions in that module. So that means let's try that. Let's create a very small, we call this not a module, we call it application Python program. Let's say call it food app 1. So what we need to do is import food. Since we create a food.py as a module, and then to use it, so you have to specify the module name. Food dot operator means something on as an attribute of the module. So food dot, we have that function called show food. Yep, call that function module dot function or method. And we print out, remember the function take a list of a list variable. So we need to pass a list. We need, instead of create a list variable, we just can enter the list directly as a single parameter to the function. So let's call it, okay, cheese. Another item, the yogurt. Remember the quote, double quote, single quote, and comma, square bracket, those key components. Like egg. You can see that problem I'm listing my favorite food, cake, and close bracket. And remember that. So they paired. And that's it. So that's how we use our food module we just created. So I'm going to try it. Hey. Python. Right now, it print out the food we just entered. So you can see that it's pretty easy, right, to create our code library module. Yeah, let's do another exercise. So back to here. So in a module, you can have more than one functions. So I'm going to create another function here. Copy and explain. So then you just modify the food module. So add another function. What this function does, define a second function we called is it my favorite food. You can see that it's a function like question answer method. You enter food, and this parameter is different from that food. They are all local variables, so don't worry. So it won't confuse the program. All the variables inside a function, they are local, only local to that function. That means the code scope, we call it the scope. The scope is local. That means only this function knows those variables. The other functions doesn't know, it doesn't care. So that's why you can use the same parameter in different functions. It won't confuse the program. So in here, the food is a list, and in here, food is just a single food name. It's just like a cheese or an egg, not a list, just one food, one type of food. So anyway, so this method take a parameter. Basically, you pass that value through this parameter. So you tell it, let's say milk. Then this function will check all the food listed here. This list is like my favorite food, right? Dumpling, rice noodle, pizza, mooncake, so on. But is milk one of my favorite food? Let's see. So the list here are my favorites, and we use X to iterate, check that, check that, check that. And if if X, that means one of the from the list equals to the food we pass. Let's say we pass a milk or egg or something. If they're equal, then return true. So this function basically, there's a return value from this function, return true. Then if not, and at the end of the for loop, they return false. That means, it's not one of your favorite, sorry, return false. So this is what this function does. So we put that function into our module. We save it. So now the module has two functions. Now let's write a second program calling the same module, but different method of the module. So I shouldn't call that a one, that should be two. Yeah. We call that, we got one already, we should use two. So what we need to do is, okay, still need to import the module and right away, how about this? The answer, the answer, let's see. Let's call it a result. We call this, put this, we pick a result variable and we call the food module, and is it my favorite food, and what food? Let's say mantou. I'm sure you have all tried mantou, especially they are northern China, from northern part of the China. So let's see if mantou is my favorite food. I call that function food that is my favorite as enter mantou, and let's see the result should be either true or false, right? Now we need to print out, of course. We can do this, just print result. That's a program. Let's see if it's true or false. I saw errors. Oh yeah. This function not exist. The food module doesn't have this method. If you look at carefully, favorite, I got a typo. I don't have the E. Or should be there. There should be a E. I even forgot. But anyway, so I don't care. So that means, oh, now this module, I need the application. Oh, the application. So you need to call the function that exists. If not, then of course you get error. Oops. Don't and clear the screen. So true. Yeah, so it's true or false. Of course, you can always make the code look better instead of just true false. You can say, do this. If result, well, that means if the result is true, because the result is the value itself is true or false. Remember the if in the if else, the condition it just care about the true or false. So you don't have to say it. You can do this. That's the same as just that. So that same thing. So if it's true, then you can say, yes, mantou is my favorite food. right? Yeah, what else? What if not? Then else, if it's not my favorite, or if the result is a false, then no, I'm just gonna copy that here. No, it's not my favorite food. Of course, it's since the metal is in the list, so it's always true. So if you write it, it always oops, how why I keep getting the I see this is what happens when you write program. If you got any typo, it won't run. So else try that. Yeah, the answer they will print out yes, metal is my favorite food. Yeah. So let's try a different one. Sing. Um, let's ask milk. Is milk my favorite food? Of course, in the message, we need to change the milk. Yes, mango is my favorite milk. No, milk is not my favorite food. So, yep, because the milk is not in that list, that the module list. Yeah, it's not in the list. This is how you use, you can see that if you put a function into module, then you can write different apps and call the same functions. Okay, that's how to use a module. In this example, you can see that the app, we have to enter this could be a variable or any value, but we have to enter metal or milk in the code. That's called a hard code. That means you specify the value of a parameter. That's called a hard coding. That's good for a small program, but normally for practical use, you probably want to enter the value from the command line, as a parameter, as a property, something like that. Not like you know, specify the value in the code line. That's called hard coding. That's not good practice. So then to solve this problem or improve the code, the program or code, we need this capability called user input. So in Python, actually, this is pretty unique. The Python has a method allow user to input a value. The method is called the input. And of course, for the newer version, it's called input. For the older version of Python, it's called a raw input. So yeah, if you have a Python 2, you probably call this one. If you have the newer Python or Python 3, 3.6 and later, of course, higher, then you want to call this the input. Let's try an example here. Here. Let's call it input 1. So let's see, we ask you to enter your username or login ID, then just call the function called input. And then in the input, you just say something like as a reminder, like as what are you asking for? So you say, you can say anything, as a string. Please enter your login ID as a prompt. That's it. And then you just print out. Print. We can call username, or we can call login ID. Enter. Just enter the is and show up here. Username. Yeah. Run code. Python. Now is waiting like please enter your login ID and say okay login ID I don't know new 123 is my login ID 45 I don't know then hit enter it print back say okay the login is login entered is that so you can enter a value when the program asks you to do. Okay. And let's try another one. Remember that the food module thing, we hard coded the food. We don't need to do that actually. So let's go back to that food thing. Let's do the let me copy food to just modify it. Okay. So instead of hard code, we can say food input or input food input. Call the input method. Enter a food name. Just enter a food. Okay, now this food input variable should capture whatever food you enter. Okay, and pass that parameter, that's a food, into this function here instead of mantle or milk, right? So we just replace that. So we don't have to hard code the mantle there. Space, food, input, and yeah, we don't need that. And since we don't hard code a mantle anymore, so we can just say we have to replace mantle with this parameter food input. So it's going to be whatever food we enter. Okay. So the string, this is a static string, that's quote, and plus a variable string, and plus the static string inside the quote. Yeah. Whenever you type a string with quote, that's called a static string or like constant string. It's not a variable. So the same. If yes, yes. If no, then that's a no. So we replace yes with no. And of course, add a not. Right? So this solves this hard coding problem. Now, if we run it, Python it's going to ask enter food and say egg. No, egg is not my favorite food. Okay, pizza. Yeah, pizza is my favorite food. Try one more time. It's fun, right? Yeah, I know milk is not. How about orange? Orange is not. I should, yeah. Well, that's all because inside the food module again, we only listed a few favorite. Of course, if we include the orange, milk, then egg, then of course the answer would be all yes. But anyway, you got the idea, right? So yeah, use the module so we can save a lot typing when we write application and also use the input to get a value, from the whoever run the program, not by the program. So that make the program, more general instead of the limit to the two mantle and the milk food. Now you can run the program for any food. So yeah, you can enter anything, right? So that's good. Okay, that's user input. Good. We have time for the next topic. Command line arguments. So the user input is good. Yeah, you just type, you have to enter something. You enter something. That's a way to communicate with your application program, how to pass a value to your program. And there's another way to do it. Basically, if you run the program, just say egg, milk, something like that. So you don't have to even wait until the program asks you to enter. You just run the program. When you run the program, and just tell your program what food you want to know, if it's a favorite or not. So this is called argument, called a command line arguments, because the whole thing is a command line, and this is the command. So your program is a command, or actually the Python and your program together is a command. And after the command, then whatever you add is all they're all called arguments. So in this case, you have 3 arguments, and there's no limit on the number of arguments. Well, there may be a size. And depending on how your program read them, you can pass 1 or more than 1 arguments. But this is 1 argument. This is 0 argument. So let's see how we can use the argument to improve our food app program. So come back here, input parameters of value passed to the Python script. The Python is a scripting language. It's different from a Java, so we call it a script, but basically it's a Python program. We run as a command to access command arguments. The sys module, that's a module. Remember the math module? That's a built-in module. Sys is another built-in module. These will be imported. So for example, the following example, take 2 numbers and return the result of the addition of the 2 numbers. Add the 2 numbers and return the result back. So the first thing is to import this module. And next thing is read the command line arguments. There's a method called, I don't think it's a interesting. I think it's almost like a variable inside the, so the module can have both methods and variables. So a structure or complex variable. So this is probably a complex variable. So you can access the sys.argv, that argument, and that basically is the thing you type here. So it will read those egg, milk as a list, I think. Yeah, it's a list. So the first argument is with index 0, second is 1, the third argument is going to be 2. So the whole .argv is a list that copy all the arguments after your program. And then says, remember the length. The argument is a list. The function length, that's a length, returns the size of the list, or number of items, or number of arguments in the list. If it's a 3, then that means, yeah, you have numbers. Interesting, equal to 3. The first, yeah, index 0. I'm sorry. The program itself, is the argument. So that's the 0. So that's the first argument. Someone asked a question. When is this class ending? I think in is about I would say 3 minutes because we started 2 or 3 minutes after 15. 30. So 3 minutes. And so if we have 3, that means we have enough arguments, the program itself, and 2 numbers. Then we can add 2 numbers. The check is important. If you have, let's say, equal to 2, that means you have your program and 1 number. Then you cannot do the addition. That will give an error if you try it, right? So you have to check. You make sure you have 3 arguments, a program plus 2 numbers. Else, it print out a usage and say, okay, usage. I think the usage is not right. I'm going to change that. So to save time, I'm going to just copy here. I won't type. So, foot, whatever. Clear the screen. What should we call this? Should we call this just command .1 py, copy the code, and I would say the usage should be say, let's try this. Run the program, Python. See, if you don't pass parameters, that means the number of arguments only 1, not equal to 3. That jump to the else, then let's print this out. Just to remind us how you run the program. This usage is not enough. So what really should do is number 1. What? Going on here. Allow me to enter anything. Number 1, number 2. Yeah, this is better. So when you run it, you don't have the numbers. It just remind you, okay, do this. Yeah, do this, exactly that. This script py. Oh, that's not right. I should say script, because we called it differently. We call it command 1. That's better. Now just provide 2 numbers. Provide 1 number. No, you still not. You need another number. 5. Now it's perfect. The sum of 4 and 5 is 9. So yeah, it's doing that. Really, see, read the index 1, that's the first number, and index 2, that second number, and do the addition, and yeah, return the result, and then we print out this line. So this is how you do the command line.
Sorry, can I ask a question?
Yep.
Okay, so I did the definition of the food one. Is it my favorite food?
Yeah.
And then when I try to call it, it says it's not defined.
Not defined. The food. You define the food.
Is it my favorite food? Yeah, so if I just do this definition and to the return false, yeah, I did all that.
Yeah.
And then there's still a 3 dot. It seems like it's telling me it's not finished. And then I try to do, is it my favorite food, bracket, cucumber, let's say. And then it says it's not defined, but I just defined it.
Match the name, make sure exactly they match, whatever function you call it, make sure they match.
It's a match, yeah. But do I need to maybe store it in like some kind of a module and then import the module, or do I not need to?
Where are you running that from, online or your local computer?
Local.
Oh, that should work in the same directory, right? You have 2 files. One is the food.py, another one is whatever.py, right?
No, I didn't do that part. Do I need to do that?
Yeah, you need to write the code, import the food into a different file. The module in one
Oh.
file, a module in one file called a food py. That's a module file, and then the app file called whatever you call it, but a different name. And save your code. That code should start with import food, and then do the food dot the module the function name, and then
So it
save
has
that
to.
into a different file, right? Yeah, you run the
So it
second file.
So it has to be so the definition of a function has to be saved in the module before I can run it. Is
Correct.
that right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
cannot just, okay, all of a sudden just define this is my favorite food and then call it. It doesn't work.
No, you have to separate the program called import
Import food.
right? And then use a food dot, and then is my blah blah blah. Yeah, yeah. I would suggest just repeat the two
Repeat
examples
this.
here, and then you can
Uh-huh.
modify from there. Okay, that should work.
Where's the line to save it? Like save it into food.app. Like where is that line? Is it because
Oh
in
no,
the
this
yeah.
is not a part of the program. This is outside the program. You only needed that. You enter those into your file. But this is just an instruction. This is outside. This is not a part of the program.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to actually, maybe I'm going to, I don't know how to, have a different font or something. So not get confused, right? This is save it. That's just like the instruction. That's the content of the file, and for Apple 2, and that's the content of App 1. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I think that's it. Let's see. Any other questions? I'm going to stop share and stop recording. Where's my recording here?